Welcome to Double Fries No Slaw. It is Sunday evening, July 25th. Let me try to slide on and blind myself a little bit. TJ Pinger alongside Richie Barnes back with you guys again to talk all things FSU. Richie, how you doing this evening?
I don't know, DJ. I'm doing pretty good. It's a little rough. We got home from work Friday. Our AC has been out in the house. We have a home warranty company, so we can only go through them to be the liaison for the vendors, and we're hoping to get a call tomorrow. 92 degrees in the house last check. It's a little brutal right now.
Dude, I would have definitely gone and found a hotel. I know your reasons for not finding the hotel. I still would have done it. There's no way. Our AC went out a few weeks ago, maybe a few months ago now, and we were gone within like 15 minutes. I was like, all right, I'm out. Like, I'm not staying. There's no chance that I'm tough enough to do this. And so I wasn't. So I left. So, that sounds awful.
It is, but shout out to the Seminole Club of Greater Orlando. They had their kickoff event today at American Social and Dr. Phillips. So the wife and I were able to escape for a few hours, get some AC, get some, adult beverages in us. So when we come home, it's not as bad, but it's still pretty brutal. But like you mentioned, we have the puppy. I would gladly board him. The wife, absolutely not. We're not letting him go anywhere outside of our site. So we're going to brave it out and see what we can do. But excited to talk some Florida State football, actually some actual football talk and where you were out of in Charlotte this past week. So, man, I'm pretty pumped to get into this.
Yeah, no, I feel like I've loved all of the different things that we've done outside of football over the last several weeks. But it's kind of cool to get some football talk going. I want to say today is 42 days. I'm doing this countdown on Twitter. So 42 days, 6 weeks from tonight, we will be in Doak Campbell Stadium. 6 weeks from like right now. Kickoff will be right now. It's 7:30. I'm excited to be back in Doak. I'm excited to be up there for it. And man, we're getting close to letting toe hit leather, as Gene Deckerhoff says. So excited to be back. It was cool to be up in Charlotte. We'll get into that in just a moment. It was cool to be up at the ACC Kickoff. I guess they've renamed ACC Media Days to just ACC Kickoff is better now. But Double Fries No Slaw brought to you by Guthrie's in Tallahassee. You can visit both their locations at 1818 West Tennessee Street and 2550 North Monroe. We're excited about partnering with them, not only as we have for the last year, but also for our tailgate that we're going to have in Tallahassee. If you're interested at all in stopping by, there's nothing official. We're not selling tickets or trying to make any money off of you guys or whatever. We honestly just want to hang out. We want to have a place to hang out with some of the people that we've been interviewing. Some of the coaches and former players and stuff are definitely going to stop by. So if you're in town for Labor Day weekend, come hit us up and let's hang out. Everything will be catered. Everything will be free food and drink and stuff like that. Food from Guthrie's, drink from my buddy Matt at Bay Cannon Beer Co. down here in Tampa. Obviously, we'll have some good bourbon and stuff on tap as well. So if you're around, come hang out. We specialize in all of that.
Yeah,
stuff. There's a
little
tent.
over a month.
There's a tent.
A little over a month away.
Fans and stuff too. Like that's what I'm most excited about. The tent and fans because it's 1,000,000 degrees. Sorry, a little over a month, Richie.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. We're going up to Tallahassee. We still are looking to find a place. Like new Airbnbs popping up every day, waiting for that one. But we got our tickets secured. We know where we're going. I cannot wait. I've not been to Tallahassee. I was supposed to go to the, I believe it was the Virginia game last year. We were about in Gainesville watching game day on the iPad in the car when they said the game was canceled. So I've not been to a Florida State game since Willie Taggart's last game against Miami when we all know what happened there. But I cannot wait to get up there and see, Florida State, Notre Dame. Dylan Gibbons, the headliner, man, I'm excited. We got a great topic there. But, man, I can't wait to be in Tallahassee with you and all of our guys on Double Fries Pod and who contribute to the website. Just have a great time, man.
Yeah, it should be a ton of fun. So we'll start here just so we can get into some more fun news, but obviously I want to start here just like out of respect and, start kind of low and go high, but some somber news, some sad news this week with the news that Coach Bowden was diagnosed with an illness that is terminal. It ended up coming out later that it was pancreatic cancer. The family said, and I don't know, it was tough. I was driving up to Charlotte, and we got out of the car at the not to make it, I hate to say, like, I'm not trying to make this about me at all, but this was my experience in finding out. I'm driving up to Charlotte. We get out of the car at the hotel, and I'm scrolling through my phone, and I see it on Twitter. And man, I was so excited to be up in Charlotte for the ACC kickoff, to go to my first, kind of real event, credentialed, which was neat. Shout out to the folks over at FSU that helped us get that done. And I was so excited going up there. And I took my wife. We had a blast on the road trip up. And then you get out of the car and you get hit with that kind of news, and you're just like, man, I don't want to be here right now. Like, I just want to go cry. Like, this is brutal. And so, man, there is no way to put into words what Coach Bowden has meant to us as fans, all of the players that have played here, as family, and the community of Tallahassee, and really college football just in general. He's undoubtedly one of the greatest coaches that ever lived. And we'll never see teams, even the run that, like, Alabama's on now and Clemson looks like they're going on, stuff like that. We'll never see teams go on the runs that those 90s FSU teams went on. 14 years in the top 5. It's just absurd. And so it was sad. It stinks. But obviously prayers up for the family and for Coach Bowden, that he can be in as much peace as possible through these last days. But start with kind of a somber note. We will certainly do something as a podcast, as a group, both Richie and I, and then everybody that contributes, whether it be website, social media, graphics, like the entire crew will do something to kind of honor him. We don't know what exactly, but we'll certainly be doing something soon. I'll say this and I'll shut up and let Richie talk a little bit. We did put out a t-shirt that we are selling at cost. It's a goat image with kind of that signature Bowden hat on it, and it says Bobby, and then underneath it says anybody, anytime, anywhere. We put that out on our website. You can go to doublefriesnoslaw.com. You can get that shirt not for free, but at cost, right? We're not charging. We're charging our cost for it. We're even eating some of the processing fees. So we're actually losing money on every single shirt, but a lot of people said that they wanted them. We've sold like over 80 or so far in a couple of days. So go pick one of those up if you want to kind of show your support there. Again, we're not making anything off of them. And so just thought it was kind of a nice thing to do. So Richie, thoughts on Coach Bowden, the situation? I'll shut up and let you have a minute.
Yeah, man. Like you said, it sucks, right? And it's, without Bobby Bowden, I'm really not a Florida State fan. I don't know if I'm here today doing this podcast with you. It's funny because my dad, he's from New York, and obviously anyone who's up there, they know the college football is not really a big deal. They don't care. But my dad loved college football, and Florida State became his favorite team because of Bobby Bowden, because of what you just mentioned, anybody, anytime, anywhere. He's like, I love watching big football games. And the first game he ever took me to was Florida State versus Duke, 95 in the Citrus Bowl in Orlando. And I've been a fan ever since. And, I lost my father to cancer back in 2017. So to hear Bobby with this diagnosis, it kind of hits home. And, yeah, it was a tough pill to swallow. And like you said, we'll do something when the time comes. Obviously, it won't be long. But at the same time, he's 91 years old. And when you think about the lives he's impacted, so many, like it's unreal, more than you or I could ever dream to impact in our lifetimes, TJ. I think, it was cool to see, it sucked to see the news the morning it came out, but it was really cool that evening to see my Twitter timeline just filled with just positive Bobby Bowden memories, pictures, and everyone coming together. Nobody cares about anything else except, hey, we all love Bobby Bowden. And that was really cool to see. And, he was a great man, and only someone like that could bring everyone together for a moment like that. And like you mentioned, when the time does eventually come, we'll do a very special tribute. Again, it sucks to see, but you have to remember, again, 91 years old. And for him to say at peace, he said he's at peace, right? That means a lot. I'm not at church every weekend like you, TJ. I try to go. I'm a Christmas, Easter, and a couple times in between guy. But, I do believe in a higher being, and Bobby Alden's faith clearly led him to quite an amazing life. And for that, I will always, remember him and wish him, his family, nothing but the best, because I think he played a role in kind of what I'm trying to become as a man as I grow.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you there. Just the fact that he did live such a full life, and there's been a lot of loss over the last year and a half. Obviously through a pandemic, and tragic loss happens every day. I honestly think a couple of my heroes are either have passed or soon to pass, and obviously it doesn't make anything more or less sad or whatever. Like this isn't like a suffering Olympics, but you look at the difference in Kobe dying with his daughter on the way to a basketball game, and you look at Coach Bowden knowing what's coming in the next few days, weeks, whatever, and being able to say that I'm at peace, I'm okay, and really being able to live that full life where he impacted so many people. It's sad because he's your hero and you kind of want him around forever, and you want him like telling us funny stories and just kind of being the man. But it's also a time of, as weird as this sounds, of celebration, man, like celebrating his life and what he did and what he meant to so many people, not only as a football coach, but, as a dad, as a family member, as a dad away from home to a lot of kids that he, that passed through the university. And like I said, we would not be sitting here doing a podcast right now if it wasn't for him. I mean, there's just absolutely no doubt about that. And so, hats off for sure. And like I said, we'll do way more and more as time goes on. The coolest thing is everybody trolls everybody, right? Like on social media and stuff like that. But and obviously Florida State fans would be very somber about the moment. But you saw so many people from rival fan bases, from other fan bases, just kind of talking about how they looked up to, respected, thought Bobby was just the absolute greatest. It wasn't just an FSU fan thing. And that's really special because, in this day and age where everybody hates everybody, it was super cool to see that. So, the news sucks. I mean, there's no way to get around that. But, again, like Richie said, for Coach Bowden to say, hey, I'm at peace, that kind of lets everything's gonna be okay for sure. So anyway, on a little bit of a lighter note, anything seems to be lighter than that. On a little bit of a lighter note, so we did. I went up there to FSU Media Day, or not FSU Media Days, ACC Media Days, now renamed. For me, it was basically just FSU Media Days. Now renamed the ACC Kickoff, and that was a cool experience. Again, the first little bit of it was kind of weird with the Bowden news coming out, but it was really a fun experience to be on that side of things. At the end of the day, a lot of what you get there, a lot of what you see at or ACC Media Days or ACC Kickoff is a lot of coach speak. It's a lot of, nobody's breaking any news there, or, things aren't necessarily happening that, are blowing anybody's mind. But I did enjoy being on that side of it. I tried to be somewhat creative with the things that I asked Coach and the different players about, and we can kind of talk about those things or whatever. But the overall experience was neat. It was neat to just kind of be in the hotel and, walk past CJ Manuel and watch, Mark Ricks just like walking by you, like no big deal, like everybody's there is pretty respectful, and being able to, Mark Ricks walks by and say, hey, Coach, how you doing? He didn't know who I was, but hey, I'm doing well, no big deal. So it was kind of cool. Maybe lined up a few interviews that will be coming soon on the French Fry podcast, as they say, but it should. I listened back to the draft from the other night, and Trey said that a couple of times, and I started laughing. But yeah, ACC Kickoff was a lot of fun. It was really cool. Charlotte's a great city. I told a lot of people this when I was up there. They asked how often I was up there. I was talking with David Hale and Andrea Adelson, both of who were on the podcast a few months ago. And they said, how often do you make up to Charlotte? And I said, I brought my wife up when we were in the ACC championship in 2014, and we loved the city and said, we'll come back every single year until, every single year that FSU plays here, and we haven't played there since. So, but Charlotte is awesome. You guys, Harlan, Richie, whoever wants to go, we've got to go next year. It is so much fun. Take the day off and go. It is a blast. We can get on Radio Row. We can do all that stuff. So don't make me go. Mike Settle went with me, so I didn't go by myself. But don't make me go by myself next year. You got to take the 2 days off and go.
I'm glad you got to enjoy Charlotte, TJ, because I love Charlotte. It's probably my favorite southern city next to Charleston. I have 2 sisters that live in Fort Mill, South Carolina, which is literally on the border, basically Charlotte. My oldest sister lived in Charlotte for the longest time. So I've been to that city more often than probably any other city that I've not lived in. Beautiful city, amazing city. Hospitality is great. People that live in the South understand Southern hospitality, phenomenal. And the Westin is a outstanding hotel and venue for an event like that. We tailgated there I forget, I was like 19 years old. I went to a UConn bowl game because my brother-in-law went to UConn. And I remember being at the Westin, but cool city. But like you said, the ACC Media Days kickoffs, it's more for national people more than, team specifics. But it was cool that you and Michael were able to be there representing Double Fries No Slaw and get those questions in that most people probably wouldn't even think to ask about. But again, if we just wanted to hear those national cookie cutter answers, we wouldn't have sent you guys up there. We would have just listened to it on the radio.
Yeah, I think that, everybody asks, the same type questions. Tell us about the transfer portal, which Florida State had a ton of guys there. Tell us about the QB battle. Is anybody, how did those guys accept each other? Tell us about, how you're dealing with vaccinations and just everything else. Like they ask the same coaches every single thing. And it's so much coach speak. Like Dave Doran was from NC State was up and he was just harping on Raven on like, oh, it's just so important for your team to know who your starting quarterback is. And that's just such a key, and your guys can rally around him and they can grow and they can build. And then you get somebody up like Norvell who has a QB battle, and he's saying, "Oh, those guys are pushing each other, and nobody's complacent. Nobody." And it's just like whatever your situation is, like that's what you're going to harp on is that. And so I don't know. Yeah, I tried to. I don't know. All those other questions got asked, and it being my first event, I wasn't pushing Chris Nee and Bud Elliott out of the way to ask my questions. And so they asked a lot of those questions about. Different guys asked about vaccinations and being comfortable with different things. And they talked about Myron Roll coming in and talking to the team and things like that. But I try to be a little bit more creative, a little bit more personal. And I think that's what we do on our show, right? Like, I think that's kind of what we do when we have a lot of these coaches on is we ask about their programs and we ask about what's going on, but I don't really care what Norvell says about the quarterback battle in mid to late July. I mean, I'll find out on Labor Day, or the night before when I see who takes the first snap. And I don't care about the QB system because what he says right now is not going to be the real thing anyway. It's all coach speak, So, So I think that's kind of what we've always tried to do on this podcast is not be so like cookie cutter, black and white, factual, boring, standard answer type questions. I think we've tried to really be creative and original and try to give a voice to the fans because at the end of the day, that's really what we are. Is just a couple of fans. And I want to ask a fan like a question would. And a fan, I don't know. I don't think a fan's going to ask, what's the percentage that you're going to snap Milton and Travis? Yeah, I think a fan's just going to ask, more personal stuff, like get to know the coach better, right? So I don't know. That's the way I viewed it. And that's the way I kind of like went in with the questions up there and tried to go from that angle. So anyway.
Yeah, man. And but one thing every fan wants to know about is, this Dylan Gibbons story is just phenomenal. And we touched on it either the last pod or the one prior. But, he used his name, image, and likeness for his first ever. He wasn't looking for endorsements or anything like that. He said, no, I have, this really good friend, Timothy, that I want to get to Tallahassee. Started a GoFundMe. You all know the story if you're listening to this because that means you're a pretty big FSU fan. If not, just Google FSU Dylan Gibbons GoFundMe. You will see the story. But you actually had a chance to ask Mike Norvell about that specific and, staying on the theme of how we opened the show with, our thoughts with Coach Bowden. I thought he gave a phenomenal answer. Do you want to get into that a little bit, TJ?
Yeah. Again, Coach Norvell had answered a lot of questions. We had kind of a private media session with Coach Norvell and Jordan Travis and Mackenzie Milton and Jermaine Johnson before they took the podium. And the only people in there were folks that covered FSU kind of exclusively. Andrea Adelson was in there as well. But then outside of that, it was really just, all of the beat, right? The guys from the Democrat, the guys from 247, the guys from War Chant, the guys from, Bud also with 247. And us. I think that might have been it. Oh, the guys from the local TV, like Ryan Kelly and those guys. And I think that might have been it. And then Andrea was in there as well. So it was a really, really intimate setting with only a few people. And so he answered a bunch of questions in there. And then he answered all the questions that you guys saw like on ESPN or whatever. And then we went to like another private room where all the national media and local media, like whoever wanted to, could then kind of ask him questions in that breakout session. And so he'd probably answered 100 questions by that point. And so you're trying to think of things that are creative to ask him. And he's talked about the quarterbacks 15 times, and he's talked about vaccinations 15 times, and he's talked about the transfer portal like 15, 20 times. And so I don't know. You could tell that he was like kind of over answering questions. Like he was like, all right, I'm ready to go get some barbecue and go home. And after he got done with us, that last time he had to go and do stuff on, ESPN and radio and media, TV and stuff like that as well. Get interviewed by those guys. I'm sure you guys saw him on TV after that as well. I wasn't tuned into ESPN that day, so I don't know, but I saw him over there interviewing with those guys. I'm sure it was on, but I just kind of asked him, I said, hey coach, you talk about guys being the right fit, tell us about, I said, I know you may not be able to comment on the name, image, and likeness specifically, but can you talk to us about what Dylan Gibbons did and using his platform to just immediately help somebody? And Coach Norvell his first answer was just service. He said the word service, and he said, that the decision that he made, a lot of people, and I'd put myself probably in this category. A lot of people, when they get like an opportunity, they want to think and find out how it can benefit them immediately. And that's how I am a lot of the time. I can't even lie. How can this help me? How can this help my family? How can I kind of further what I want to do? And Coach Norvell said, but there's some people that are special and different, and they immediately think, how can I help other people? Yeah. And then he brought up Coach Bowden. He said, we've talked a lot about Bobby Bowden this week and being up here these last couple of days with the news that came out. And he was like, Bobby Bowden's life was one that was lived by service. And he was like, that's what Dylan Gibbons did with his name, image, likeness platform, his opportunity to help somebody else that was in need. He said, you talk about the guys that are the right fit and the guys that you want in the program. And he said, Dylan Gibbons, it has a lot of talent on the field, but he's also got a lot of talent off the field. And so I don't know, not that, it's like when you can kind of read somebody and you kind of know how they're answering and what they're saying and stuff like that. And you could tell that Coach Norvell very much was glad to answer a question that wasn't about vaccinations or the QB battle, right? Like was more about like him being able to brag on one of his guys who Gibbons' story is amazing, but still, how often does he get to brag on an offensive lineman, right? Like, like you could tell it meant a lot to him to be able to answer a question like that. And so, yeah, it went really well. And, my first time I've ever actually spoken with Coach Norvell, I'm just trying not to like fumble over my words, right? And have like, Bud Elliott laugh at me while I'm, up there at media days. But no, it was really, really good. I wrote a story about it. If you go check it out on the website, doublefriesnoslaw.com. I did write a story about that. Also, there's a link to the GoFundMe there. If you have $5, $10, $20, they've reached their goal, and now they've set a new goal to help out with some of Timothy's medical bills. You can read up more on the illness, the disability that he has. So doublefriesnoslaw.com. Go check out that story on Dylan Gibbons, Norvell's answer to it. And then, if you have $5, $10, you have $20, if you have $100, go support that, because it's definitely a worthwhile cause.
So what was the chatter around, I don't know how many elbows you were rubbing or anything along those lines, but Florida State sending 3 transfers to represent the university. Obviously, Jordan Travis did play at Florida State last year, was, the main starting quarterback, but Mackenzie Milton and Jermaine Johnson. I think Jermaine Johnson was kind of a no-brainer, but a lot of people thought maybe an Amari Gaynor or, a Robert Cooper, someone who's been in the system. But 3 transfers, I thought that was unique. I'm okay with it. If that's who Mike Norvell thinks are the best 3 people to represent Florida State, sign me up. I'm good with that. But what were people asking you about that from other teams, like that from team-specific media? that sees, wow, they're taking 3 transfers. They're looking up at old Florida State stats and they can't find any.
Yeah. No, I think that, I mean, we asked Norvell about that specifically, and I didn't specifically. I did ask Milton about that, so I'll share that answer in just a minute. But yeah, they asked Norvell about it, and he just said, like, hey, these are the guys that deserve to be here, right? These are the guys that in the locker room deserved this opportunity. And not that there weren't more, because he did mention a guy like Amari Gaynor, and he did mention other players on the team like Corbin. And, you know, I don't want to go through everybody that he listed, but he said, man, we probably had 20 guys that I would have liked to be here. But we had 3, and we went with the guys that were making the biggest impact, the guys that deserve to be there the most, and they happen to be from the transfer portal. And that's what it is. I asked McKenzie about it specifically as well. You know, all 3 guys being from the transfer portal, how he felt embraced by the team, only having been at Florida State for a few months. And he said, yeah, look, I didn't come in expecting anything. I didn't come in expecting to have to win a job or expecting to like automatically have a job. I expected to have to win something. And so I feel very blessed that Coach Norvell thought that I was deserving of this honor. Coach Norvell also said, you know, you know, how did he put it? He said, sheesh. We don't see somebody as being from the transfer portal or not. Yeah. Everybody's part of the team. Nobody that was here last year is guaranteed a job, and nobody that came in through the transfer portal is guaranteed a job, right? You have to earn everything you got. And so our team is here and is full, and these are the guys that we brought, and these are the guys that deserve to come. And so I thought he answered it pretty well. Nobody asked me specifically, but you know, that there was kind of a theme around, hey, these are the guys that we were comfortable with bringing for sure.
Yeah, and I'm okay with Norvell doing that, because obviously if he just brings one quarterback and he truly doesn't know who his starting quarterback is going to be, and the guy he doesn't bring wins the job, you have to explain that after the fact. So, you know, I thought it was interesting that, you know, the ACC for the first time in over a decade, as far as I'm aware, had everyone bring 3 players instead of 2. Typically it's just one offensive guy, one defensive guy. But they said 3 players, and I'm sure whoever put it together, when they were asking for players, they said to Norvell, like, you got to bring McKenzie Milton. Like, we need that story. That's a national story. That's a positive one, not just for Florida State, but for the entire ACC. Because if McKenzie Milton comes to Florida State and he has success, that's one of the feel-good stories in the entire country that'll be featured on College Game Day 2 or 3 times as the season goes on, which is great for Florida State and great for the ACC. On that note, do you have a gut feeling or a preference? I guess, who do you think is going to start versus Notre Dame, and who would you like to see start versus Notre Dame? Because, you know, we really haven't got into that yet on this pod.
I mean, I think that if Milton's 100%, and Norvell, I think, mentioned this stat, if Milton's 100%, he's won his last 26. Whether he's 100% or not, he's won his last 26 college football games. It would take 9 last year's to beat that. So if Milton's 100%, then yeah, I'd like to see him out there and probably getting the bulk of the snaps. Milton told us he was 100%. He said he could go today. He's ready to go. I gotta think that we can do a lot with him. That said, I think Jordan Travis is going to get a ton of snaps because we've talked about this. We've talked about the fact that like Mullen would use guys that could only run and bring them in at like weird times and have them run the ball. Like Jordan Travis can sling the rock as well. And so I think he's going to come in and not just be a run only option. He's going to be able to throw it around some. But again, I think if both guys are 100%, then I think, you know, I'll leave it up to the coaching staff, right? Like I don't want to say that I have any kind of inside info on like what'll happen, but it's got to be tough to put a guy, you know, to not start the guy that has proven it at that level over and over and over again. So that's my gut. I mean, I would guess that Milton starts game 1 against Notre Dame. I think they'll both play in that game, not like due to injury or anything. I think there'll be packages for both of them.
Yeah, I think anytime you have a quarterback on your roster who's finished a season in the top 10 of Heisman voting, that's kind of who you got to go with. And I know the injury was gruesome, damn near 2 years just to get to the point where he'd get back on the practice squad. But I think it's going to be Milton, and not to take a cop-out answer, kind of piggybacking off what you said, I want whoever Mike Norvell thinks gives us the best chance to win, because he knows a lot more about football and quarterbacks than you or I ever will. And I'll trust that whoever he sends out to take that first snap against Notre Dame knows what they're doing. Anything else from the ACC kickoff that you wanted to touch on or have comments on?
Yeah, just really quickly, I asked Jordan Travis about his relationship with Devin and kind of navigating through those NIL waters. He was obviously very high on his relationship with his brother. I thought that was cool to chat with him about. Jordan also from the podium said that he was asked about the transition from the last staff to this one. And he basically said before Norvell and the guys came in, he didn't know if he wanted to continue to play football, which I thought was a resounding unintentional shot. He kind of clarified that in our breakout session where he just said, look, I wasn't like about to put my decommitment note out there. I wasn't about to quit, but just those doubts had kind of crept into my mind kind of thing, so he did clarify that. But again, kind of a resounding answer there. Mackenzie Milton showed a little bit of personality in our breakout session. He was kind of funny. I asked him about some of those close games there was one close game and one blowout against Memphis when he was the quarterback at UCF. And he kind of told a funny story about how he and Jermaine and Travis were Jordan and Travis were out to dinner with Coach Norvell the night before. And, Jermaine kind of asked him, how come you guys never talk about those games? And they were like, Norvell was like, because I lost both of them. I don't want to talk about it. So, but even they were on separate sides of the room, and there's absolutely no way that Norvell could have heard him talking because Norvell was asking or being asked and answering questions. But Mackenzie still kind of looked down just to make sure that Coach Norvell wasn't looking. And I said, what does he got a rule? And he busted out. I said, what does he got a rule about you talking about it? And he goes, something like that. So he kind of looked at it. It was funny. And then I asked Jermaine Johnson about the rivalry with UF and how excited he is to go to Gainesville this year. He's played UF twice, but both times in Jacksonville, right? Which is a fun game and a lot of fun to be at, but never been to the Swamp. So he said he was excited about that for sure. Had one of his better games against UF last year, even though they lost. He played pretty well, and so he was really jacked about that. I said, I know it's a long way down the road, and hopefully we've won a lot of games between now and then, but he was excited about that game at the end of the year in Gainesville. So I try to be a little more creative than just like, hey, how do you feel as a transfer coming in here? And I thought we did a pretty good job kind of chatting with them, and I had a good time even if they didn't. So ACC kickoff was fun. Like I said, you got to go next year. A lot of fun.
Yeah, man. I mean, it certainly looks from you, Michael, who was out there representing us as well, and everybody else from Florida State media. It's so different. I went back in 2009, and it was just so casual. It was literally one day they had the Atlantic coaches and players, one day they had the Coastal coaches and players, and they all had round tables, and they had an hour each, and you just rotated from table to table, kind of like speed dating. And that's how you did your interviews. And then on the second day in the morning, they had a golf tournament where they'd mix all the players, the coaches, and the media together. And it was awesome because I got to play with Frank Beamer of Virginia Tech. And I'm still not any good at golf, and I was really bad back then. But there's one hole, there's water 240 yards out, and I'm playing. He's watching me. I'm like, I'm going to try and clear it. We don't get hills in Florida. And I cleared the water. He's like, oh, you should move out here because you play a lot better here than you do in Florida, I bet, which I thought was pretty cool. But awesome that you got to experience that. And like you said, I think next year we need to get the whole team out there, all of us out there, have a blast, just to hang out, cover the media days. My sister can host us at her house and the best Charlotte, pubs and bars and restaurants, and it'd be a lot of fun. But I'm glad you got to experience that with your wife because that had to be cool. Charlotte is a very underrated city.
Bro, I will. I'll go grab drinks and stuff with the whole crew, and your sister is welcome to come. I'll put on my tab, but I am absolutely staying at the West End again next year. She there is nothing like rolling out of bed at 8:40 and just being downstairs by 9. That's amazing. I brushed my teeth and brushed my hair and left. I showered the night before, so it was great. Let's talk about this. I got a couple more things, then we'll get out of here. Conference realignment. OU and Texas, it looks like, are headed to the SEC. Harlan, you wanted to jump in and talk about this a little bit. Let's change the graphic here. Oh, put Richie on the bottom. Well, that's all right. It's like 90 degrees there. Heat rises. So we have some thoughts around conference realignment. That all was kind of going on while I was up there, so it was kind of crazy. But it was like toward the end of the day, like everything had kind of already wrapped up. It's wrapped up by about 2-3 o'clock on Thursday. So all that stuff started coming out. Initial thoughts, and I don't really care who goes first here, Harlan, Richie, whatever, take it, on OU. Let's start there. OU and Texas going to the SEC.
Go ahead, Richie.
I think it was no mistake and very calculated that the news leaks during the SEC media days, right? And right before the Big 12 starts Thursday. I think this, and we've since seen reports that this has been in the works for 6+ months, which is not surprising. And as a Florida State fan in the ACC, it's terrifying to me personally that the SEC is just building up this juggernaut. Depending on what rumors you believe, we've seen reports that Ohio State, Michigan, Florida State, Clemson potentially could be options for the SEC, but that's terrifying because we're already well behind in TV money, which is what every conference needs, which is really everything right now. And man, what a power move by the SEC to make this happen, especially that they've done it so quietly behind closed doors for the past half year. And there's never been a leak until now, intentionally during SEC media days. Phenomenal move by, Greg Sankey with SEC. And everything. I'm just amazed by it. As a Florida State fan, I'm a little on edge to see what happens to us. How about you, Harlan?
Yeah, I think it's interesting too because you had the whole 12-team playoff talk come out, and now this has been kept behind closed doors for 6 months. So you wonder who actually knows what's actually going on. Some people know a lot more than the public. So I don't think it's good for Florida State unless there's another conference, unless either we join the SEC or the ACC plucks some more teams, or we go to another conference that's doing the same thing as SEC. I'll be interested to see what happens. I just hope we're not left on the outside looking in.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that would be good about this would be for us to as well join the ACC or the SEC, right? That's the only good positive thing that can come out of that from the money perspective. I've seen thoughts and people talk about Notre Dame, West Virginia joining the ACC. I'd be fine with Notre Dame. I don't care for West Virginia. Tom Block, who does the sideline reporting for FSU Radio, Gene and those guys, made a comment, was talking with David Hale about this. I saw it while I was up there. We shouldn't be adding mediocre teams like West Virginia. We should be kicking out teams like Syracuse and Pitt and Boston College that bring nothing to the table. Boston College can stay. They've been in it forever. But I know they haven't. They were in the Big East. Yeah, get them out too.
Boston College should kick rocks.
Yeah, we should be kicking out those teams and saying sayonara, so that way we're not splitting up the revenue so many different ways. There's no way that Syracuse should get the same revenue that we do. There's no way that Pitt or some of these teams should get that kind of same revenue. Not that we've been great recently, but having literally built this conference ourselves, there's no way that all those other teams should be added. So I'm not a big fan of the idea of adding West Virginia. Obviously, Notre Dame would do a lot for the conference. I still don't know that we could get anywhere close to competing with the SEC. And so, those reports that the SEC may just break off and be a super conference of 32 teams, I'm all for that. I'm absolutely all for that. Put the best 32 teams in there and make that the new college football. That's totally fine with me. I don't, sorry to your USFs and UConns and other teams of the world, but
I know
them's the breaks, bro. I don't really care.
I know we talked about it a little bit in the group chat, but what would y'all's what would you prefer? Because I see some people saying, "Oh, I want three power conferences. I want 2. I want 4." But I don't see the number. I know you just mentioned the SEC making 132 super conference, but I don't see the numbers for the people that are saying, "Oh, I want 4 or I want 3 with all the best teams." I just don't see how that works.
So I don't know the number, but I think the magic number is 2. Because let's be honest, this is already the minor league of the NFL. Let's quit playing games and just treat it as such. And even if it's 2 conferences of 20 plus teams, and the top teams go to a playoff, and then the NCAA can have their own national championship too. But we're all going to know who the real national champion is based on that, which I think Florida State would be included in, which is a good thing for Florida State fans. But yeah, I don't know West Virginia. I don't know if that's the answer. It doesn't help a lot. I mean, it's a nice addition, but it's not great. They don't have a big national following.
It's just one more person getting a piece of the pie.
Exactly.
Like you're having to give out, and you want the money that Notre Dame brings in to share with them. That's fine. They bring more than they take. West Virginia is a little bit better than Pitt and Syracuse and Wake. But I don't know. Are they any higher than? I mean, at least we get some basketball out of the Carolina schools, right? Like,
West Virginia is good at basketball. They're top 10 every year,
right? But they're not bringing.
At the same time, in the other schools they mentioned, like the UCFs, the Memphis, USF, they had nothing from a monetary standpoint.
Who would do
conference? So that's the problem.
I know their fans get a lot of crap. Who would do more for the ACC? UCF with ACC money, or West Virginia with Big 12 going to the ACC money? I'd take UCF. I'd take UCF 10 days out of 10. Like, it wouldn't even be close.
I think it's West Virginia, honestly.
They're
so unique. Listen, I live in Orlando. My wife is a UCF, hospitality graduate. Nobody cares about UCF in Orlando. You go downtown Orlando on a Saturday in the fall, nobody's asking, where's the UCF game? It's where's Florida State, where's Florida? No one gives a crap about Miami, UCF, USF, anyone else.
I look at what UCF has been able to do without their budget. You know what I'm saying? Like winning BCS games, winning New Year's Six games, continuing to be relevant. I don't know. I think UCF's a better program than West Virginia is without the money. Like, how much better could they be with the money?
But it's about TV markets. Like, I don't know. Like I said, I live here. The last time I remember,
do people in West Virginia have TVs? Like, is that a thing?
I only remember couches. I only remember like 2. Living in Orlando, I remember 3 UCF like making local news. It's when they beat Auburn to win their national title, when they beat Baylor in the Fiesta Bowl, and then when Dante Culpepper said he's coming back for his senior year. Other than that, we never hear about UCF in Orlando, the hometown team.
The newness of their school, every school has to be there at one point. But I'll tell you, when they play as a conference opponent, FSU and Miami, like, that stuff's going to get big. And not next year, right? Like, not in 2022. Yeah. But, like, when that's happening 10 years down the road, are people ever going to care about when West Virginia plays Clemson, Miami, Florida State? Like, no. But at least with UCF, I feel like you'd have some of that rivalry stuff in 10 years, right? Like, immediate impact, maybe West Virginia would be better, but as UCF starts to grow and continues to grow, get some of that money. I can't believe I'm caping for UCF here, but yeah, I think I'd take them. But even that's where you're stretching it. You're having to have the debate between UCF and West Virginia. Yeah. It basically tells you that Notre Dame's like the ad, and you kick a couple other people out. Like, I
think the moral of the story is that adding teams to the ACC is not the answer. Because
it's getting our butt out and going to the SEC.
Else. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I think that's what all 3 of us are getting at. Like, staying in the ACC is not the answer. Let's take Clemson, go wherever. Miami, as much as I like to think they get left behind, they're like number 1, like in the waiting line, right? Like, you got reserved tickets. Someone doesn't show up, we'll take you. It's funny. No one's talking about Miami right now. Everyone's talking about Florida State and Clemson, which it makes sense because those are the 2 teams that have owned the ACC for the past 50 years. But man, I don't know.
I think even when Florida State's bad, like you said, if it's about TV markets, like, nobody goes to the Miami games. Nobody watches. I know their fans are absolute diehards. Like, I'm not taking that away from their fans that do go to those games and watch them on TV and stuff like that. But they just don't have the fan base. Being a smaller private university, like, I get that their fans are, their smaller fan base is just as passionate as our larger fan base, and their team's been better. Like, this is not a shot at their team. Their team's been better than ours for the last year. Like, I'm not worried about saying that, but
everyone's
about team market. If it's about TV markets, like, if I'm the SEC, I'm thinking about bringing Duke just for basketball. Like, there's more. Say what?
I would take UNC over Miami.
I mean,
well, imagine home and homes with Duke and UNC, or no, home and homes with Duke in Kentucky and UNC in Kentucky every single year. That alone, like, you own the basketball market at that point, and everybody forgets about. And the ACC has a ton of good basketball schools, like Syracuse. Like, people forget they were a national power that won a title in 2002, but people forget about them. If you're telling me I can every year watch Duke and Carolina both have home and homes with Kentucky, and then I can watch Florida State have home and homes with Georgia and Florida and all these teams, like, I'm getting excited talking about it. I don't think it's going to happen, but I wish it would, because I think college sports would be so much more enjoyable, even though it would suck for the mid majors and the group of five
I don't
teams.
care. Nobody watches them anyway. Yeah, I mean, I think Florida State brings a lot outside of just football too, right? Like, very recently has won a couple of soccer championships, has won a couple of won a softball championship, obviously one of the most historic baseball programs ever. So yeah, I think that, Florida State brings a lot as well. So anyway, Harlan, to answer your other question, yeah, I've seen it floated around that it's just 2 mega conferences and stuff. Obviously, though, one of them is going to be so much better than the other one, right? Because the SEC is already better than everybody else. Like, already has like 5 of the top 15 teams every year, and now you're adding Oklahoma. Texas doesn't really need the money, and they still suck every year. But Oklahoma's a good ad, right? Like, in Texas, just for brand is massive. Yeah. But yeah, like then you add like Clemson, FSU, Ohio State to it. Like,
Michigan.
What's the point of even having another conference, right? Like, we should just play a 24 team tournament every, twice a year with those teams and call it a day. That actually might be a lot of fun. But yeah, college football is going to change here very soon, and it's going to be wild to see. Hey, I'll say this: I haven't even looked at this yet. Shout out Dustin for editing this for us. Ed's asleep at the wheel. I believe he's on vacation. But shout out Dustin for editing this. Michael Settle, who was up with me at ACC Media Days. I'm going to keep calling it that. I don't really care. If the ACC people get upset with it, they can come. I'll have them email Richie. But ACC Media, Settle was up there. He wrote a piece on conference realignment and how it may impact FSU. That'll drop tomorrow morning. Between 8 and 9 o'clock. Monday mornings, my kids are not. They stay with my in-laws, so it depends on kind of what time I wake up for that. But check out his piece tomorrow morning, Monday a.m., or if you're listening to this on Monday morning, conference realignment, how it may impact FSU. Good piece. Again, I haven't read it, but I'm trusting Mike that it's a good piece. Any other thoughts on conference realignment? We have one more topic, then we'll get out of here.
No, just leave Miami and the ACC to die. That's all I have.
Send them back to the Big East, right? I love it, Harlan. Okay, one more thing, and we'll get out of here. This is a little teaser for you guys, but I think we're going to have a pop-up recruiting episode tomorrow, so stay tuned for that with Zach Blostein of 24/7 or Knowles 24/7. I'll confirm a time before this podcast is over, but stay tuned for that. Talking about recruiting, Florida State had a couple of commits today. Massive recruiting weekend where they had a lot of guys on campus. 3-star offensive tackle Daughtry Richardson committed to Florida State. Alex Atkins and the boys continue to pile on offensive line talent. And so good to see them get that pickup. Beat out Miami for him. Richie, picking up an offensive lineman is never a bad thing, right?
Yeah, and I think it's a great job by Mike Norvell. Obviously, he has a lot of Richardson has a lot of family ties to Tallahassee, but he goes to Miami Central. So there was a lot of speculation that Miami was going to be the school. His Twitter profile picture for the past several months has been him, edit of him in a Miami uniform, and everyone that really follows recruiting. So don't take TJ or I's word for it. We follow actual experts like Bud Elliott and Josh Newberg, Sano and Chris Nee. Those guys, they've all kind of said, yeah, this is going to happen eventually, and it did this weekend, and it was really cool to see. And my favorite part, Florida State, I believe now has 16 commits. Or maybe 17 because they added another one right after him, but 5 of them are offensive linemen. Every Florida State fan knows that's been kind of our Achilles heel the past few years. And to see Norvell both understanding that, evaluating that, and saying, listen, we're going to throw bodies at the problem. Like, I'm going to get all these people, and they're all quality recruits with good offers. I think Mike Norvell's doing an awesome job, and we cannot talk about the offensive line recruiting without mentioning Alex Atkins. I think he has been probably Norvell's best hire to date, regardless of on-field, off-field, anything. Alex Atkins is a stud. He's going to be a head coach one day, and I hope we can hang on to him for at least like 2-3 more years because dividends are paying off with him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I saw I saw UF fans asking if we could trade Atkins over there. So the answer is no. But Norvell wasn't pleased with just stuffing Manny in a locker one time this weekend.
Yeah.
So he went ahead and did it again with defensive tackle Daniel Lyons, 3-star according to the 247 composite. Daniel Lyons, defensive tackle. Norvell stuffs Manny in a locker again. The 2 commitments move our class up to number 7 nationally.
Well,
Shout out to Odell.
You forgot to mention that we're just having a summer bake sale. It's a bunch of fake momentum, and Manny's got a ton of silent commits. Apparently, I know they all publicly commit elsewhere after he says they're silent commits, but Manny, he's got that going for him. He's number 1 in silent commits, last place in silent commits that actually pick his school. But yeah, that's a rough look for Manny Diaz right now. You could tell when he made those bake sale comments, he was banking on having a couple guys commit that he thought were in the boat, and they went elsewhere. And now he looks like a fool, and I love every minute of it.
Yeah, we may not end up with a class that's ahead of Miami. I really don't know. We don't get into recruiting that deep on this show.
Probably, yeah.
I know that we're going to take a lot of guys, and that could certainly help. But we may not end up with a class ahead of them. But I'm telling you, it's going to be close. It's going to be close. And if we lose out 11 to, and we're 14, they're 11 and we're 14, then it wasn't really fake momentum. At that point. So if we finish 32nd and they finish in the top 10, then yeah, I mean we'll give it to Manny Diaz and we'll say that they were right. I don't think.
Well,
I
think it's important to look at where we're coming off of. Miami's coming off one of their best seasons in the past 20 years. Florida State's coming off by far their worst season since any of us have been alive.
Yeah. Before Bobby was here.
Yeah, before Bobby. So
Miami, before him. Yeah.
And that's what I think is so encouraging to me as a Florida State fan in recruiting. And like you, TJ, I don't follow it super closely, but I know enough about, the big names, where the rankings are and whatnot. But every time a team has been down and one's been really up, they've really taken advantage. We think of Jimbo Fisher, 2010, as he built that roster that won that national title. Miami and Florida were down, and Jimbo capitalized. Manny and Dan Mullen are not capitalizing right now at all, which gives me a lot of faith as a Florida State fan. If we can give me 6-6, give me a bowl game win to get to 7-7, I think that this climb could happen quicker than a lot of people think. Though games do matter, we have to play them. But Florida and Miami have dropped the ball massively in terms of trying to capitalize on Florida State being in the worst shape they've ever been in any of our lifetimes.
Yeah, for sure. And Newberg talked about that a ton over the years, is with Miami and Florida being down, Florida State went on to win multiple conference championships, go to national the playoffs, win a national title, win a Heisman, absolutely dominate their rivals. And we've not seen that from Florida or Miami, right? Like they've beat us the last couple of years, but has Florida dominated Georgia? Has Miami done anything in the ACC? No. Yeah, I did confirm Zach Blostein tomorrow at noon. So we'll have like a pop-up recruiting episode. We did one with Sonone a couple of months ago after a big weekend. We'll do that with Blostein, maybe like 30 minutes. The only thing that could delay that is Florida State is hosting some more visitors. Zach will be out covering it. We may have to bump it a little later, move it to Tuesday, but just kind of as an FYI, keep your eyes open. Subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, Facebook. Put the alerts on for live videos on Twitter, wherever. We'll send it live everywhere in the next day or so. A little recruiting insider info with Zach Blostein of 247. Hey, I hung out with Brendan Sonone while I was up there in Charlotte. Had a good time. So shout out Brendan. Those are my guys over at 247. Nee didn't go out and get any drinks with us or anything, but I hung out with Sonone and Kurt Weiler of the Tallahassee Democrat. Both those guys. We went to a what was it, like a Korean barbecue place where you cook the food in the middle of the table. It was amazing. And so shout out to those guys. It was so good. I was like ribeye and stuff, bro. Like, they cook it for you, but it's like in the middle of the table. It's like your own personal little hibachi. It was amazing. So, all right, I think that's it. I have one more thing, and then we'll get out of here. I know that we have asked you guys a ton to go and support the boosters, and we still very much are banging that drum, right? Trying to fly that banner. I'm trying to think of cliches right now. If you haven't signed up to be a booster, don't tune out just yet. Like, listen to my commercial and then you can tune out because we're about to wrap up and finish. But go to boosters.fsu.edu, contribute to the One Tribe campaign. You could do it for as little as like $5 a month. That's how you need to buy tickets anyway, because it's so much cheaper, so much more. You could buy single game tickets, or you could be a booster and get season tickets for like way cheaper than what the face value is. And then, give the rest of them away. I don't care what you do with it, but go sign up to be a booster. A lot of people have asked, what can we do outside of just being a booster? Hey, I've already sent in my membership. I've already done what I need to do there. Go to SeminoleExperience.com. SeminoleExperience.com. They have a bunch of different things that you can do and a bunch of events going on in and around Doak that you can go check out. They have, we're throwing our tailgate through the Seminole Experience, the tailgate guys, things like that. You can get a tailgate catered and sponsored through them, where you literally just show up anywhere from groups to 10 to 1,000 people, like however many people you want to bring. They do everything, set up, tear down, everything in between. They can help you cater it, all that stuff. And then you just go into the game. You don't set anything up. You don't tear anything down. You come back after the game. You continue to watch TV, continue to do whatever you want to do. It's all done for you. They also have a Coca-Cola tailgate zone, where if you only have smaller groups, you can buy tickets to get into that. More details on the website there. And then they have stadium tours that they're doing this season. They're bringing them back. COVID's obviously on the decline. Things feel a lot safer. Stadium tours available Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. If you're going up on a Friday, go for a game, for any game this year. Go do a stadium tour. It's a 90-minute walking tour through all of the historic sites: Joanne Graff Field, the Dunlap Indoor Practice Facility, Dick Hauser, and obviously Doak Campbell. Go check out the stadium tours. Booster members get 50% off of their ticket for it. Go to SeminoleExperience.com and check out more details on all of that stuff. If you're a booster, if you're not a booster, go sign up to be a booster. If you're a booster and you want to know another way that you can kind of give back, help out FSU, go check out SeminoleExperience.com. They got a bunch of stuff going on. And you won't be disappointed with any of it. I'm out of breath. Richie, you got any shout outs before we get out of here?
Yeah, I want to shout out the Seminole Club of Greater Orlando. I served on their board from 2012 to 2015. They've had a lot of transition, and I'm excited. They had their kickoff event today. I went there. I met the new president, Shantae McLeod. I think we're going to have her on the podcast here soon. Really cool girl. I love her vision for the university. When you go to watch Florida State games this fall, I would definitely encourage everybody to look into where the official Florida State game watching parties are, because they directly report to Florida State Alumni Association and Florida State boosters. So when you go to these game watching parties, they have, raffles, different prizes, different events and everything going on. Buy raffle tickets, do all that stuff, because all those proceeds go directly to the university, either to boosters, the Alumni Association, or here in Orlando, we fund 3 scholarships every year, to where we've picked 3 deserving Central Florida, high schoolers that are going to Florida State, have been accepted, and we give them a scholarship for the 4 years that they would be at Florida State. So shout out Shantae. I thought she was phenomenal. We had a blast. Shout out American Social and Dr. Phillips. There's one in Fort Lauderdale and Brickell, Miami. A lot of good stuff. And again, guys, just support your local Seminole clubs, because that is an extension of the boosters of the Alumni Association. And it's extremely important and plays a big role, and a lot of dollars are raised for the university from that. So that's my shout out, or Seminole Club of Greater Orlando. Awesome event today. Bought this phenomenal shirt that I helped design, and shout out you guys.
I like it. Tampa, the Tampa Seminole Club has their event in 2 weeks. It is one of the best events that I've ever been to. It's so fantastic.
Been there multiple times.
It's a pub crawl, and it's on my niece's first birthday party. And so I won't be there. But if you're in the Tampa Bay area, I know a lot of good friends that are going to that. And I wish I was going too. I love my niece, but like, if you've been to one-year-old birthday party, you've been to them all. They smash the cake, you open the presents, they all get the same thing that everyone else is already. I hope my family doesn't watch this, but I hope they do. But I hope they forgive me for what I'm saying right now. But yeah, shout out the booster, shout out Seminole Experience is all I've got for this week. Shout out my wife for putting up with me and going on the road trip up to Charlotte. She wanted to go. She used it as like a 2-day vacation, and then she got rid of me for a few hours a day while the ACC stuff was going on. She went down to the gym. They had a Peloton bike, and she loved it. So shout out my wife for hanging out with me for a couple of days on the road, and then up in Charlotte. Anybody a song for this week? Harlan, you got one? You asked us in the chat if we had one. Was that just to kind of like cue us to get ready for it? Or Richie, do you have a song? Harlan, do you have one? What do we got here? Oops.
I have no songs, so I'm going to throw it to Harlan.
Harlan, it's all you. Dadgummit.
All right, we're good now. Okay.
No, you hang up.
So since we pulled 2 more kids away from Miami,
Let's go.
I figured it's perfect for maybe Mike's a little problem for Manny right now. So let's go Somebody's Problem by Morgan Wallen.
All right.
Love it.
We'll do it. He definitely is a problem for him. So, all right, for myself, TJ Pittenger, Richie Barnes, and our producer, Harlan Harris, thank you guys for hanging out. We will see you guys for a pop-up episode sometime this week. Oh, one more shout out. We did a live draft last night.
Yeah.
So go check our channels for the offensive draft, the defensive draft. If you're subscribed, you already saw them. The offensive and defensive drafts, we're going to release a vote on Twitter for those. Go check those out as well. I'm out of shout outs. We've been on for an hour. I'm going to go watch a movie USA Soccer and USA Softball playing tonight. Go America, go Knowles, go Jesus, all those things. We'll see you guys next week.
Make sure you vote for my team as well. Thanks.